Ciao ragazzi! So great midweek games this week in Serie A, the Coppa Italia Semi-Finals, il derby della Madonnina, Milan-Inter, that's the third derby of the season already, and then there is a great rivalry of Italian football, Fiorentina-Juventus. Well, that was already a rivalry back in the 80s, back in the 90s, you know, the transfer to Roberto Baggio, a league that was heavily contested back in the 80s, Fiorentina-Juventus, but now it's even more since Vlahovic joined Juventus and he starts scoring all the goals. So Fiorentina-Juve, this is gonna be a great game on a Wednesday. You wonder, why am I on my own? Where is Edu? Where is Daniel? Well, Edu is on leave and he will come back soon from his holidays, and Daniel is not feeling very well, so hope you get back soon. But don't worry, I got it all covered. I got everything for you. I got all the odds. I've analyzed the games, watched the games at the weekend, of course, and I'm sure as you follow this channel day in and day out, you know, on Oddspedia, we tend to give you always the best odds, the odds that give you, you know, the greatest margin of win, and most of the time we also nail a couple of ACCA. By the way, go and check the video I've done about Serie A last week, because if tonight Atalanta and Sampdoria is the result that I predicted, we're gonna nail another ACCA. But let's start with the game on Tuesday, which is going to be the derby of Milano, il derby di Milano, derby alla Madonnina. This time is Milan v Inter. A little caveat. This year in Coppa Italia is different from the European competition because the away goals rule still stand. Italy didn't quite align with the rest of the continent. They're going to do it for next year though, so they're going to scrap the away goal rules. That means the team that plays the first game away has got a little bit of an advantage, because in case they finish with the same number of goals at the end, the second leg is going to be played in April, well, the goals are going to score away, they're going to count double. So you might see perhaps the away teams taking it a little bit more cautiously, but we'll see. Let's start to analyze the derby della Madonnina. Well, first of all, we have to say none of these teams, they come into this game in a particular great form. A very disappointing couple of weeks for both Milan and Inter. Milan come from the back of a 1-1 draw against Udinese, at game that they started controlling. They had good chance in the first half, and then in the second half they really slow down the tempo and allow Udinese to come to the box a lot. The goal of Udinese should have been disallowed. It was scored with his hand, but apart from that, Milan really didn't look like a team that was convinced to get the 3 points and obviously take a massive step towards the title challenge. So it's another draw. After the draw, they had a Salernitana the week before against the bottom of the team. It seems like Milan are a little bit fatigued and they're running out a little bit of ideas. I don't know, maybe lot of players tend to the individual solution, the goals from the strikers, you know, there's a little bit of hit and miss. Giroud had a good spell. Now it's been a couple of games without scoring. 𝐜𝐿𝐴 is delivering, and you know, on the flanks as well, Milan with 𝐜𝐴_Hernandez, with Calabria, they all seem to go through the middle, so it seems to almost congestionate the center of the park. So if teams sit deep and defend, they can quite figure out how to do against them. And also at the back, obviously, you have to remember that Milan are playing with a few absentees. The long injury of 𝐿𝐴 is affecting them, so not a great spell for Milan. Only 2 goals scored in the last 2 home games, so one against Sampdoria, one against Udinese. Let's talk about Inter. Inter perhaps even worse, because now they are third in the table, 2 points behind Milan. Yes, of course they got the game in hand in Bologna, but seeing Inter form so far and the way they struggle to score, you wouldn't necessarily bet that they're gonna go to Della and get the 3 points. So potentially could be top of the table. In reality, they have lost all the ground they made in November and December. And why is that? Fatigue, physical fatigue, mental fatigue for some of the players. The two strikers up front not linking quite as expected before. Lautaro hasn't scored in ages. Sanchez is not impacting from the first minute. 𝐿𝐭𝐴 seems to carry all the burden of Inter's attack. And when Inter commits a lot of players forward, trying obviously to score, especially when you go forward with the two wing-backs, they left themselves exposed. It happened against Sassuolo. It happened in the first 20 minutes against Genoa. Then at Genoa they had all the ball. Well, of course, they were playing against the team second from bottom in the league, a team that is reconstructing, rebuilding, is doing good things with the new manager, but obviously they would not be expected to dominate the games. Had decent chances. I don't remember amazing save by Genoa keeper 𝐜𝐿𝐴 at the end. Was another very, very frustrating night for Inter, and now, you know, they are really under pressure. I always said about Inter, maybe when they were playing very nice football, when they were playing, you know, very expansive, yes, that was an improvement on last year's season, but you have to remember also, I think the team has been weakened by the changes that have been made in the summer. So, you know, yeah, it impressed everyone, but I don't think never is gonna be that easy as it looked in November and December. But now comes the Coppa Italia. It obviously is a massive game. It's a game that can define the season of these two. It could well be the only trophy that they will be able to lift at the end of the season. Inter have got no chances in the Champions League. So obviously, great, lots of odds at stake in this one. You know, for an Inter that only scored 4 goals in the last 6, they really need the help of �𝐭𝐿𝐴, who might be back into the team, starting from the bench to add something new. We saw 𝐿𝐼𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜𝐭𝐿𝐴 playing at Genoa the last few minutes. 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽 is not really ready for this one. Maybe will be for the weekend against Salernitana. So, you know, still I think 𝐿𝐵𝐴 partnering with Martinez, of course, up front. Skriniar returning into the lineup. Milan are missing Tonali, which could be interesting, you know, because, you know, they have their issues building the place. But let's go with the odds. Obviously, if you think about the recent derbies, there always been goals. Last year in Coppa Italia finished 2-1. In the league, he finished 2-1 for Milan and then 3-0 for Inter. This year, the first leg was 1-1, but Inter had a lot of chances, could have scored more. 2-1 for Milan. So normally, these games produce a lot of goals. I also remember a 4-2 a couple of years ago. And considering that, you know, Inter is creating the chances, is not finalizing. Again, we're looking at the second best attack of Serie A. Milan has scored, not recently, but, you know, scored a lot of goals as well. You could find value on the goals market if you go for an over 2.5 goals, which pays 191, so 3 goals or more. But as I mentioned before, this could also be a cagey game. It could be a derby of the fear of losing. Again, there is obviously the return match, which is a bit of an anomaly because so far in Coppa Italia they only played 1 game. There is the away rule that still counts. So it could be that initially teams have the approach rather not lose instead of winning and then playing all in the return game. So another bet that I think could pay pretty well is the first half draw. So a draw in the first half, that's if you go on Oddspedia, is 226. And finally, the last one that I found also interesting for you, and it pays a little bit less, and again, this is a conservative one. If you don't want to go for the goals market, which I think is what is more likely anyway, because I don't think this team are gonna lose you know, their the way of playing. So I think, you know, goals should be on the market. But if you want to be a little bit more cautious, the Asian handicap 0 in the second half for Inter, that pays 180. So that means Inter, who I think overall in the 2 games against Milan this season have been the better team. If you think Inter are not gonna lose the second half, or maybe they're gonna win it 180, if they don't lose the second half, you get your money back. If they draw, if they win, you get 180. So that's the derby della Madonnina analyzed for you. And now let's move on into the game on Wednesday allo stadio Artemio Franchi di Firenze, Fiorentina Juventus. Now, if you don't know enough about Italian football. I tell you, this is one of the fiercest rivalry in Serie A. It all started back in the 80s when Juventus and Fiorentina were fighting for the Scudetto and Juventus won it. There were some referee controversy. Then it was alimented when Roberto Baggio moved in the 90s from Fiorentina to Juventus. Then have been loads of other players who went from Fiorentina to Juventus, pretty much never the other way around, Bernardeschi, Chiesa, etc. And obviously in January, the 70 million move of Vlahovic from Fiorentina to Juventus. So this is going to be even more important, if you like, but also this is a chance for Fiorentina to show how much they've improved so far this season. They have improved. The fact that now they got 42 points in the table, and last year they finished with 40, that tells you that is already a massive improvement. But also it is a chance for Fiorentina to get into the final and challenge for a title, a team that under Vincenzo Italiano is really showing more quality, more composure. It can challenge, maybe not for the Champions League spot just yet, but is always an entertaining team to watch and very propositive. And for Juventus, that comes on the back of a really, really important win at Empoli 3-2 with a little bit of nervy moments, but a Juventus that, as I said many times, has been revitalized by the arrival of Vlahovic. If before they looked a team that was never able to score, if you look in the game they played against Milan, Juventus 0-0, not 0 shots on target and many others, now they look at a team that can score at any minute, thanks to the Serb, who stretches the plays, links the play, is very dangerous in the box, he creates chances almost by himself, is cool, composed, 20 goals in Serie A. They speak for himself, but also help the other players around him, and especially Morata, to share the burden of the attacks, the runs from midfield, etc. It is a Juventus that I think, unfortunately, we have not seen yet at his best, because they only been able to play with 3 up front in a couple of occasions. Dybala is still injured. Is a Juventus that also, when he went to play Villarreal after taking the lead, very soon they stepped back, retracted, sat behind the ball, were not propositive as they should have been, and then defensive mistake are costing Juventus a couple of goals and couple of points and chances, as we saw at Villarreal. So it's not a perfect Juventus yet. I think the issues still remain in the center of defense. Juventus are without a lot of players. There are issues in midfield, also with the injury of 𝐜𝐭𝐴, the injury of McKennie. They need more from Arthur and Locatelli to be able to control the ball, and also Locatelli to offer more going forward, a sort of box-to-box role that he did so well at Sassuolo. So it's gonna be a tight game, I think. Juventus obviously is going to have the slight advantage of playing the first game away, so obviously any goal they score will be counting double, obviously, if they finish with the same score in the end of the second leg, which is going to be played in April. It's going to be the same front two, Vlahovic and Morata, of course. Vlahovic to score, potentially. I would imagine Vlahovic scoring, already scoring Coppa Italia against Sassuolo, and he qualified them for this round. Fiorentina the weekend, a lot of chances at Sassuolo, finished 2-1. They equalized in the 88th minute with Cabral. Then they conceded a stupid goal in the injury time. Away, Fiorentina this season are not been great, but at home always a good watch, always entertaining, always scoring a lot of goals, conceding a couple, but always a very good show to watch. And I think they demonstrated that they were not just Vlahovic. They kept playing very well, they kept producing good football. It's the system, is the 4-3-3. Players like Saponara, Bonaventura, Sottil, Castrovilli, that now he's in good form. They supply very good passes, good balls for whoever plays as a striker. I would imagine again Piontek, although Cabral scored his first goal at the weekend. So let's go for the odds. If you think about a tie game again, and a game that Fiorentina being a home, and being a team that has put in danger a lot of big teams could control from the start, you could go, for example, for an Asian handicap 0 in the first half of Fiorentina, which pays amazingly well, 2.15, which means, again, if Fiorentina wins the first half, you win 2.15. If they draw, you get your money back, although careful, because lately Juventus has had an habit of scoring early, of course, with the man that is Vlahovic. Again, the goals market, not that Juventus is a particularly fearful goal machine. I think they are only the 8th attack of Serie A, but Fiorentina home, as I said, often a team that looks to go forward. The Juventus looks more, they can score more goals, obviously, now with the new number 7. So the goals market, I would go for an over 2.5 goals that pays 197. I don't know why the bookies thinks they're going to be less than 2.5 goals, low scoring games. Maybe because Juventus' defensive record away has been good before, but if you look at the last couple of performances and some of the goals the goals they conceded Empoli, lapses of concentrations for a Juventus that is going to be also without Chiellini. And also, if you trust the goal market, so if you think they're going to be more than 2.5 goals, so perhaps 3 goals, 4 goals, this is a speculative one, both to score in the second half. That pays a lot, 330. With odds over 3, I always suggest bet half a unit. So for example, if you bet normally €1, bet 0.5, because the odds are so good, you're still gonna make a good margin. But we are talking about both teams to score, Fiorentina and Juventus scoring in the second half, which by the way, it also happened at Empoli, for example, with Juventus. So it's not completely out of the equations, if you like. So these are my 6 tips for the midweek games. And now let's move on into the ACCA. By the way, the Serie A ACCA I made this week, if tonight, Monday night, Atalanta and Sampdoria is the results that I predicted, go and check it out. We're gonna win another ACCA, getting used to it now after the Europa Leagues and Serie A. So always trying to give you the odds that are a little bit likely, and multiply them. Sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't, but more often than not, of course, we've been winning. So the ACCA for these midweek games: Inter to score in both halves, that pays 350. Fiorentina, Juventus over 1.5 goals in the first half, and that pays 290. Obviously, I had to go only for 2 games. The total odds 10-15, high stakes, but again, worth perhaps putting half a unit on this ACCA. Repeat, it's Inter to score in the first and the second half, Fiorentina Juventus over 1.5 goals in the first half. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this short, reduced version of Odds On video about the Coppa Italia Semi-Finals first leg, Tuesday and Wednesday return. We're going to talk about in April, of course, but then we got many more videos coming up on Oddspedia. The Serie A videos coming on Wednesday, when I will be joined for sure by one between Alvaro on Daniel. See you soon. Enjoy the football. Ciao, ciao.